How you doing, ladies and gentlemen? Today, I have an incredible guest. This gentleman's name is Jerry Karchi, and Jerry is the developer designer of a program called Zen Salto. Zen Salto is a way to be able to help people navigate through challenges related to the way they feel about themselves, their image, and before I go any further, Jerry, kind of just talk a little bit about yourself and explain what you do.
So I created this program called Zen Salto. And it's a program really to help people feel more confident about themselves, in understanding that they have a purpose here, and they provide so many different things that can really help others and be an inspiration as well. And sometimes we need to have someone kind of give you some guidance to get there, because there's so much going on out in the world right now. And so the program actually came from inspiration from my daughter. She was born with Pfeiffer syndrome. It's a genetic mutation that affected the structure of her head and face. And she's had so many surgeries to help reconstruct and um, get her where she is now, that we've probably even lost count. I can't even tell you how many procedures she's had, and they haven't been easy. And that's really what inspires me from her. She's been having these surgeries since she was 6 months old. And with those surgeries comes a lot of resilience on her part, and how she was able to overcome a lot of the pain and the struggles to get through it. And as she was growing up, I knew that there was going to be more of an image problem, because she looks different. And so I created this mantra that we do together, and we've been doing it since she was 3 years old. And I'll go over that with you. And I always like to start first. Anything that I do, I always like to say this mantra, and I really feel that in saying it, it's very powerful, and it also gives the person the feeling of being okay with what's going to happen next. So I'm going to say it. And if you viewers, anybody out there wants to repeat it, it's very powerful. And I always say, do this, and it's really good. So it's: I'm beautiful, I'm smart, I'm funny, I'm caring, I'm brave, I'm strong, and I believe in me. And we say all these things to give you that ability to feel strong. But when I created Zen Salto, it was to kind of dive deeper into each of those words and understanding why we're saying them, and how you can use that in your life to be able to bring those things out that are inside of you, that you might not have seen before, or even said to yourself before. So the program really is about bringing that out. And then there's also the physical aspect of it, which is movement. I love to dance, and I know music is always a good way to get people's spirits up, and the dance routines that we do. And trust me, you don't need to be any sort of dancer of any form or of any shape, but you just be able to just move along with it. And I always say, like, if I go right and your body wants to go left, just go left, because I want you to feel the music and get into it. And so with that program, what we're doing is we're going each week, after we talk about each word, the dance routines. And then on the last week, we do a full hour of dance routines, and you do the ones that you've learned with me, and then you do ones that you haven't learned. And that's where you get to use the mantra, really, especially the I believe in me, to be able to get through that, to show you that you have the capability of doing it. And
Okay.
that's it in a nutshell.
Well, you know what? It's powerful because of a few things. First off, use the power of affirmations. People, they feel good about themselves when they can tell themselves that they can overcome something. And like you said, things like I'm beautiful, I'm smart. You know, remember, society does a lot of things to convince us that we're not, that we should fit into a certain category of things. And sometimes there are a lot of us that take that as credence. When someone on the outside tells us that we're not smart or that we're not beautiful, we take that to heart.
Hmm.
So I know. I mean, it's clear that something like Zen Salto is a great way to be able to encourage people how to do that. And the dancing and the music are just extra additives because one, music stimulates a person. It stimulates the mind. It allows you to do things like rely on your memory because if you hear old song, you're reminiscing.
Mhm.
You know, if it's a new song, you're doing everything you can to process it and understand it. So your mind is now being challenged in either way, and it's having fun at the same time because it's not they're not taking the test, they're listening to music, you know. And then like you said, the movement aspect, when you look at doing things like creating some type of movement, like
Mhm.
it's like an exercise a little bit. Listen, your your endorphins increase, you have that, that thinking of more positive, thought processes that come from the desired movements.
Yeah.
And like I said, it doesn't have to be anything major. I mean, you talked about the fact that if a person moves left and you tell them to move right, just follow what's in your mind.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. And it's like you said, it's my I call it mind, body, and soul. And it's tapping into all three and being able to use what you need to use. Sometimes you need to be more physical to help you get through something. Sometimes you need to be able to use your mind to get through something, and sometimes we have to dig deep into our soul to get through something. So I feel like combining all those three things really helps you find what best works for you. And as you mentioned before, like, just the imagery and the stuff that we see sometimes, and I'm sure there's no malice intentions, but like, you're watching advertising where, you're not smart enough unless you graduated from college, from this college. You're not wealthy enough unless you're able to buy this vehicle. You're not, like, all these things are like kind of almost like a shortfall, in that you don't have it, you need to go get it in order to get to there. And so that's like more on the physical part of it, the material part of it. Now, don't get me wrong, I mean, we all have to strive for things, and feel that we're moving in the right direction, and purchasing those things are being part of that. It should be a fulfillment where you feel like you've accomplished something, not a shortfall. You know what I mean? So for me, it's really tapping into that person inside, saying, yeah, I don't have that today, but I know I'm good enough to have that.
Right.
I'm worthy of that. So putting that into your mindset will not only get you there faster, but it's okay that I don't have it now, but I will.
And that's the reality, is that we live in a world that wants now, that wants yesterday. We have an Amazon lifestyle. But what's important is understanding that it's all about achieving the goal. And sometimes achieving the goal may take a little bit longer than anticipated. But it doesn't mean that just because it takes a little longer that it's not going to happen.
Exactly, exactly, and that's kind of where the dance routines are coming along, as far as learning those few routines that we're doing after each motivational talk regarding each word. That's why I feel that it's like more of an accomplishment. It's the really end result, because we're more excited about the excitement that we accomplished it, right? Like that's the thrill. We got there, we made it happen. I try to also teach that, to enjoy the process to getting there, to the accomplishment, because when you're enjoying the process, as difficult as it may be, but if you start to understand that this process is enjoyable, because at the end I do get this reward, but sometimes we get so caught up on the reward and forget the process, and then or the process is too difficult and we give up before we get to the accomplishment. So it's enjoying the process, and that's why it's the music, the dancing, like you said, like it's the reminiscing, it's the just being able to laugh at yourself, that's an important one for me in the I am funny, because I am funny means I don't take life so serious that I can't laugh at myself,
Ab-
right?
Jerry, absolutely. Because the reality is, laughter, laughter is a way to be able to stimulate a person, and it's also a way to diffuse the grief that you're dealing with. When you, I was actually reading a, I was reading a journal entry from like I believe it was like the Journal of Science or something of that nature. I don't know the exact name, but what they were saying was that they did a comparative study talking about laughter, and what they did was they had a test group and they had a control group. The test group was shown a series of funny video clips. The control group was shown a series of speeches. And what what they did was after that they used fMRI technology to kind of map what the brain processes during these two events. And it was shown that the brain is extremely stimulated during aspects of laughter. Now, the brain is more in concentration mode, obviously, when it's listening to speeches, but that also heightens the aspects of anxiety. It heightens the degree and propensity of going into grief or stimulating the grief that you presently have because your mind is so busy concentrating on trying to process this information. On the other hand, with the laughter, what you're doing is you don't have to process the information. Laughter is an emotion. So that emotion is just simply coming out and it's overriding the grief related emotions that you're feeling. It's not abating them, but what it's doing is it's allowing your mind to spend more time focused on that. Because remember, the brain can't do multiple things at one time. I think there's less than 1% of the population that can actually multitask.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
for the most part, most people have to turn on and off different processes in order to give the appearance of
Yes.
multitasking. You know, and again, I know that's diving kind of deep, but what's what's interesting? Let me ask you this, man.
Yep.
I mean, you what besides the mantras for help and city, what made you really look at how people from the outside can benefit from what you were working with Sydney from?
Yeah. So I work with a special need group, and they're an amazing group. And I kind of fell into the position to help them out. And we do different program classes. We do a lot of socialization, and we do some sports activities. And as I was working with them, I really started to, and it really came from just me being able to feel empathetic to just the fact that, here's a group, they want to live just like anyone else. And I felt that immediately when I was with them, because with my daughter, it's the same thing. She just wants to just be like everyone else, right? We do want to have our special talent and feel that we're providing something to our other human beings. But at the same time, we kind of want to feel like I can just be just like you. I can cry like you. I can laugh like you. I can do all these things like you. And when I was using the mantra with Cindy and moving into the aspect of working with the special need groups, I connected the fact that we all just want to have a happy, good, fun, loving life. And I started doing the mantra with them. And they were really they really took to it, and they really enjoy it. And they actually, uh, when I thought that I always had to be the one saying it, they started asking to say it themselves in front of the group, which was amazing. And they knew it backwards and forwards, which was really good. And as we were doing that, and I also teach Zumba. So when I was teaching Zumba class, I would use it in my Zumba class. And eventually it kind of just started to fall together because people started saying, like, Jerry, I like going to your class. It's like a Zen class, but it's a Zumba class. So it's kind of like it's kind of fun, but you make it a little bit more than just a fun dance class. And with my group, they loved it because they just felt like they were empowered to be able to do things that they maybe thought they were not able to do. So I just started kind of just playing around with different methods of trying to put this together. I'm like, how can I put this mantra and the dancing and put it together? And so I just started to just kind of play around with, all right, maybe I can do a motivational speak and then do like a small presentation of dancing. And then it just started to kind of fall together. I was like, you know what? I love both aspects of it, and just make it 50-50. 50% talking about each word, 50% doing movement. And then I tried it out, and it really, like you said before, laughter, the fun part of it, um, really opened their minds to what I was talking about for each word. So it almost like, even though they're individually, but it kind of build a bridge where they can kind of fall into each other, and they were getting more out of it than if I just did one or the other.
Understood.
So,
Understood.
and with my daughter, I'm always in awe of my daughter because she's now a teenager who's making ways for herself, and she's told me this in the past, where when she's feeling down and she's not feeling right about herself, she's like, in her subconscious, she starts hearing the mantra, and she starts saying it to herself, which, again, it's amazing. And just last night, she was talking to me about what's going on at school and how she wants to get more out of it. And she literally said to me, Dad, I see myself being successful. Just like that. I
Excellent.
see myself being successful. She's like, I'm not really sure what I'm going to do, but I know I'm going to be successful at it.
You know, that that encouraging thought process that came from the years of you instilling that encouragement in her, to the point now where, again, just because she may look different, it doesn't mean that she's not going to achieve incredible amounts of success, and she's not going to fall victim to to what society says about different. I mean, we talked about this off camera a little while ago, where there you look at Instagram and you look at all the. I mean, they have these different filters for
Mhm.
people. I
Yeah.
mean, it's funny. I was looking at a Instagram story, and the guy was talking about how he went on a date with this girl, and from her picture, she was beautiful. He said when he walked into the place, he couldn't recognize her. And she was like waving, like, I'm here, I'm here. And then when he looked at her, he was like, in his mind, he was like, you don't look like your picture, you know?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we live that world because the world of illusion seems to be a little more how we would rather give image than reality. You know,
Yeah.
it makes it very difficult to find a relationship or a friendship, you know,
Yeah.
or to do things because everything is image oriented. I mean, you have you have people, Jerry, you have people that will literally apprehend themselves from doing something because the crowd of the group doesn't do it.
Hmm.
But it's like, really? Are you
Yeah.
gonna you're gonna keep yourself from finding your greatness because some people around you don't quite see your greatness as greatness, or don't quite see the things you're doing as beneficial.
Yes. Yeah.
Talk a little bit more about that, and talk about how your program encourages people to take a self approach, to be okay with being themselves.
Yes. And I think that's really the very first word we say is I'm beautiful. And in taking the word beautiful out of the imagery of beautiful in the sense of like, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, right? What you find to be beautiful is what you find to be beautiful, right? No one can really change that unless you allow them to change that. So within the course, I do talk about how if you see something that you think is an amazing picture, and it talks to you and you feel something from it and it means something to you, and then you have a best friends or a group of friends that say that's just squiggly lines on a page, like it doesn't make any sense, like what, how can you even like that? Then you will internalize and say, well, maybe I'm wrong for thinking that is beautiful, and then fall into their opinion and be like, yeah, you're right. But no, hold on to your opinion of what beautiful is, and just say, well, it doesn't have to be beautiful to you, it's beautiful to me, right? And then taking that a little further and then saying, I am a beautiful person, and looking in the mirror and saying that I'm a beautiful person goes beyond the physical aspect. It's on how I treat others, how I feel that I have empathy for others. And I do find things in beautiful places that maybe someone else doesn't, and that's okay. It's about what I feel on the inside is what comes out. I'm a bright light, and I can do so much more with the beauty I behold that I have. So it's really coming from the inside. So that's like the first on the image side. I try to get them away from just what you're seeing on Instagram. Isn't always have to be filtered and made to look beautiful. Those are staged, right? That's not real life. And I mean, there's plenty of stage stuff that you can say, wow, that's really that touches me, that impacts me. But when we look into the reality of it, this is where it's very important that you're looking beyond the superficial and seeing what it is that deeply touches you. What gets you more involved into that. So that's kind of where the program leads as far as the beginning of it. And then as we're going through the course, we're being smart. We're being not only just smart intellectually, school wise, we're being smart with how we process things. Where if things aren't always going in our direction, and things are blocking us, or things are impeding us from doing something, being smart enough to take a step back and saying, okay, hold on, let me think about what's going on here, and then accepting what we can do to get around something or move through it, or how to work with that. So you're dealing with just not your friends who are telling you that's not pretty or that's not beautiful, navigating yourself and saying, hey, you know what, it doesn't talk to you, but it talks to me. So
Right.
being smart on
Absolutely.
your reaction to what they're saying, and trusting your internal beliefs, and what you see as beautiful, um or in anything. Some people tell you, well, hey, look, you really don't come from a background that will allow you to get to this point. And you have to be smart enough to say, well, yeah, I might have been born in this situation, but that should not keep me from getting to this situation. And being smart enough to see that and say, hey, that's what your opinion is, but it's not what I see.
You know,
And moving through that, and each word kind of navigates through that.
and that's again back to the affirmation aspect of things. It's important to know that you can instill something in someone, and they can take it with them when they're away from, you know, from the group, or when they're away from the class or in the sport. when they're in their daily environment,
Exactly.
you know,
Exactly. That's how I see it. I see it as a way that, and then being able to um, give scenarios and kind of real life situations and seeing that, kind of opening their eyes to things. And sometimes you might, I call this a I do know this situation where, there's times where we know, right? I do know this, but sometimes we just need to be reinforced or reminded, sometimes because we do forget, we do get caught up in the world, we do get caught up on our emotions. Sometimes emotions can really take over, and you're trapped in that sadness or anxiety or depression or um, even happiness. You're so blinded by things that you're so happy that you're blinded by things. So we get caught up in emotions. Sometimes we need to kind of have that reminder or reinforcing, what we know already. The I do know this.
that that is really important because the reinforcement, like you said, that is true. And then you said something that really made sense. Listen, our emotions we just expect, and it doesn't matter what damage that is. It can be either the sadness or even your happiness. We can be so blinded by our happiness that you're not seeing the big picture of the picture. And that blinded by the happiness side, that's like being able to comprehend and realizing that I'm okay where I am. I don't need to open the door and walk down to the hey, I even know. Opening that door and walking out might present, it might bring you from a excuse to a fact. You know, you're happy being true, but, you know, for fear of making things guys or not being comfortable, not being happy, you're not going to open that door.
Yeah.
You're not going to find if there's an opportunity for you. Let me, uh, let me ask you this. You are now, you're off that football team. And
I'm sorry, you're kind of coming in and out. I'm not sure what's happening.
I was asking, um, you are a football team, and I understand that you've written a children's book
Yes.
for called for the Princess Shooting Strong, um, the the reason why I'm beautiful. Is that correct?
I'm sorry because I missed that last part.
The name of the book, the Princess Shooting Strong.
Yes.
So I believe there's a second part about why I'm beautiful,
Why I'm different.
why I'm different.
Yes.
You
So
know,
with that book, I was really inspired with my daughter with that book. When she was 5 years old, she had to have surgery where she had to wear mid-face device for 3 months. And it was really noticeable. Obviously, it's sticking out of her face. And right before that, we were continuously talking to her about the mantra and just like building up her confidence. Because when we did research on when children go through this, they go through a month of depression because they really can't do anything. They can't go to the pool, they can't go to the park. They kind of just have to be kind of secluded in a sense because of anything that could happen to this device. So when she came home that day from the recovering from surgery, she was amazing. She actually did a self-portrait of herself, and she actually drew the device on her face, which was remarkable. And then she would always be like, I want to go out. And we're like, well, we really can't go to the park. We really can't. I'm like, maybe we can kind of stay around the neighborhood. But she's like, I want to go to the mall. And I'm like, well, I mean, it's fine if we go to the mall, but people are going to be staring at you with this thing on. And she's just like, I don't care. So we get to the mall and she's like parading around the mall, asking to like modeling in front of things and like, take a picture of me here and take a picture of me there. And I was just like, oh my God, like she has no, like, she's proud of this thing. It was just kind of like wearing like a trophy. So that really got me inspired to like write this book because I felt that the mantra at that time was really making her feel really strong about herself. And so that inspired me to write Princess Sydney Strong, What Makes Me Different. And that what makes me different isn't the aspect of her looking different or having to wear this device or even born in a different family. What made her different was the mantra. That made her stand out in the sense of she didn't let these things get in her way. She was able to overcome a lot because of the mantra of who she is. And that, is why I wrote the book. And, that really wanted me to get people to get into how she is and where she got that from to get that word out for kids, especially.
No, that's what I wanted to touch on too, because I believe that in the beginning of this higher thought process, your mindset is helping shrink, but then it's expanded over time. Talk about how you feel about the ways children use yourself.
So with her, it's just kind of like a little seed, right? That starts with her, and I wanted kids to feel the same way that she was feeling because of just the way the world is. And as we were moving around, and we came to this location and I became a Zumba instructor, I started using it in the beginning of my classes. And then those adults were coming into me and like, oh my God, like they really said, like one in particular said she never said those words to herself ever in her life. And she had a bit of a tough upbringing. And she walked out of class like tears in her eye because she's like, I never thought to say those things to myself. And she felt very powerful from it. And that's when I started like, okay, this is a good thing for everyone. Everyone should be saying this to themselves. And as I mentioned, when I do in my special need group, they eat it up because it's the same thing. Maybe as they were going through their life, they never said those things to themselves. And I mean, they have very caring, loving parents. But each time that we say it, I can see it in them. I can see it in their eyes that this is very powerful for them to say these things about themselves. And it comes the same thing with my adult classes. I'm certified to teach fitness classes, so I use it in all my classes. And now I'm teaching what we call active older adults, and these active older adults are like amazed by it too, and they say it, and then they're asking me like, where can I get your book? Because I want to give it to my grandchild. I have a daughter who's a teacher. How can I get this book to her? Like, so they're all feeling the mantra, and and I keep saying how powerful it is. And I'm like, just share it. It's important that everybody shares this and get the word out there, that this exists. And it's at the end of the day, it's really not about me. It's really about this mantra and getting people to feel better about themselves. I'm just like a facilitator. I'm just facilitating the word to get out there to show people this is who you are and you're worthy and you're meant to be here. You're here to give us whatever it is that's inside of you to us.
You know what? That right there is God. You live in a world where music is when you don't have and it's extremely tough. But I was
I'm hold on. I completely lost you. I can't hear anything you're saying.
I was talking with the person. Can you hear me now?
A little bit.
Life it's interesting. There are tons of technical difficulties, but that's okay. That's okay.
We can work
You
through
know,
it.
we're the way we're looking at it. I was saying that I was talking with a person, and we were talking about that statistic about the fact that we have a 1 in 400 trillion chance of actually being born. And because we have, it's, I mean, listen, that's bigger than any Mega Millions lottery ever in existence.
Yeah.
So that means all 8 billion of us hit the lottery of life.
Hmm.
So I added on to that by asking them, or by saying, it's amazing that people get here. And mind you, you beat off roughly 1 million sperm cells to get to the egg. You beat off versions of you that could have cured cancer, versions of you that could have been president.
Hmm.
And you got here and you decided that I got a job with UPS and UPS is my thing. And again, don't this is not about bashing people that are working or people that work certain jobs. It's not about that. Um, my whole thing was, if you enjoy, say, UPS, I'm using it as an example.
Hmm.
If you enjoy it, that's great. But instead of just being a driver, look at how to become a logistical manager. And then after that, look at finding a way to streamline the program so that UPS can find a way to be more efficient in what they do.
Yes.
And when you make that decision, you become an asset to the organization. If you're in love with it, then you should do everything you can to improve it as best as possible.
Yeah. It's finding that purpose, right? And this is why, like, I talk about, like, finding that purpose, that if like you said, if you're more than happy being a driver and that's what you want to be, beautiful. And you're working to the capacity of, I'm putting 100% into my job because I love what I'm doing, and I enjoy meeting people on my route, and making connections that way, and you feel that, and you feel that's your purpose. Wonderful. It's when you're getting a calling inside of you that's saying, there's more to this,
Right.
that there's more to me than just this. Then you got to tap into that and really start using the, you know what, I was born in this situation. This is what I've been told throughout life. And I'm a big Star Wars fan, so I'm gonna quote Yoda. You must unlearn what you have learned, right? You have to unlearn that, okay, you're only able to get to this point in life because this is what they've said in your life growing up. You have to be able to say, no, I'm more than that. And,
Absolutely.
this is where that program is saying, if you feel that little voice or that gut feeling that I'm more than this, whatever it is that you're doing. I mean, even if you're a doctor, a lawyer, or even the president of the United States, if you're feeling something in there saying, I'm more than this, you have to go for it. And feel, that's where the brave, the I'm strong, that is telling yourself that I can proceed what it is that's telling me inside.
Absolutely. Stretching yourself as far as you can. That's a key to true happiness because progress equals happiness. You know, satisfaction equals stability. And that is different because when you're stable, or your perception of stable, which can change at any moment. And now your emotions are in it because when that changes, all of a sudden, instead of taking responsibility, which is, you know what, I work for this company, but there was something inside me that I know I can help to elevate this company, but I chose not to do it because I was okay with, getting a paycheck every week and handling my business.
Exactly. So that's a you just I think a lot of times too. Sometimes you talk yourself out of it
Absolutely.
because it's a I feel I can do more, I can add more, I can be more valuable, but there's a process that needs to get there. And you start thinking of all the heartaches that you have to go through, all the things you have to overcome. And then you start talking yourself out of it. Oh, you know what? I'm not really that smart to do that. Or I'm not really capable to do that. I don't have the energy to do that. I don't. So you kind of sit back and go, you know what? I'm just happy with what I'm doing. Right. So that's where it comes into play, where we're saying these things to ourselves. And then again, it's action. You're saying these things and then you're creating an action afterwards.
Right.
Right. Because then I'm all these things and I'm creating an action to show that I am these things. It's a lot easier to overcome those negative thoughts of, you really can't do this. What are you thinking? You really think you're that smart? Right. So when you start to do this class, it's really to get you into that motivation during the process of getting there versus I want to get there. Because during that process, you can, and as we've experienced, you know, technically things don't always go the right way. There's
Right.
always some sort of overcoming of something. And then if you can kind of just, you know what, I'm fine. I'm going to do it. I'm going to get through it. I've done this in the past. I'm going to do it again. That's easier to overcome those stumbling blocks than you're already talking yourself out of it before even getting there.
How long is the program that you do with your people, and how, like, if there's a midway point, for instance, when do they finally get to that point of saying, "Oh man, I can't do it," and what do you do to encourage them to
Yes.
keep moving forward?
Yes. So it really, it's all dependent on the person. It could be day one, right? Because day one, you're talking about who you are as an inside person. But when it's time to do the physical part, the routines, you're stumbling and you're like, I don't know anything, right? So what I usually say is it's okay, because some days you have it, some days you don't, and it's okay. It's part of life. We're growing through these things. It's a evolution. We evolve. Evolution doesn't happen overnight. It's a process. It takes time. And I do tell them, enjoy the process of learning. Laugh. You went left and you were supposed to go right. It's funny, right? Like, it's okay. It takes our brain uh time. And this is from Andrew Huberman, I believe is his name. He's a neurologist, and he talks about the learning process is, we learn something when we're sleeping at night. Believe it or not, we're processing what we've learned, and the next time you do it, you still will not, you won't be perfect, but you'll remember something about it, and it'll be a little bit easier to do that step.
Right.
You'll start to remember a certain cue, a certain song, a word, right? And then and then the next time you do it, it's going to be a little bit easier than the time before. So this is kind of where I give them into that, like, enjoy the process. It's not an overnight thing. And if you just have fun with it, just, like you said, laughing is a remedy for everything. So you're laughing at yourself and being like, oh my God, this is crazy. But then as you progress and you start to hit those little milestones, which I also call um, um, just making little adjustments that you're learning from, will become a big adjustment at the end. It's called Kaizen. It's a Japanese word called Kaizen. So Kaizen is making a little change or making a little difference will become a big difference. Like what's the saying? A drop in the bucket, right, will turn into a gallon. Like, you're having to be able to enjoy what you're doing during the process will help you navigate when you're just in your gut going, I don't know if I can do this. I'm hitting a wall.
And what's interesting about that is that so many people will find a way to convince themselves that they don't have it. Mel Robbins was talking about a concept, and her concept was called the rocket ship concept. And she was saying that what she does is, so your brain has roughly a 5-second window before you can tell yourself that you can't do something. But within that 5-second window, when you just do it, before the brain can convince you that it can't, You're already into it. So now at that point, it's a it's more of a, you know what? I'm here now. How do I move forward from this point? And humans are very resilient. When we get into a situation, we are going to be solution oriented. And especially when it's something that's out of our purview, we're going to figure out what we need to do. I mean, we've been obviously we're kind of in a world now where a lot of people don't want to access that intelligence that they have for for whatever reason. I
Mhm.
mean, you know,
I'm sorry. Hold on.
no, that's okay. Go do what you do. Hey, this is a pet friendly show, so it means that sometimes you're gonna have that kind of interruption. There are gonna be some dogs. There are gonna be some cats. Things happen. So we're gonna just wait for Jerry to get on back. But look, in the meantime, like I said, Jerry's Zen Salto program is a great way to look at yourself and a great way to look at how you can move forward.
Sorry about that.
Man, don't apologize.
Delivery next door.
Like I said before, this is a pet friendly show. I was actually telling the audience that's exactly what's going to happen once in a while. Look, we're going to run into some cats, we're going to run into some dogs. It is what it is.
Yeah.
But now, I understand your process is an 8-week intensive process.
Yes, it's an 8 week
And,
process.
you know, that's, again, 8 weeks. That's a commitment for a lot of people.
Well,
So,
it's 8 weeks, but it's once a week for 8 weeks.
uh,
So
again,
it's 1 week for 8 weeks, and it does seem like a long time. It's 2 months, but that's a drop in the bucket when it comes to the rest of your life, right?
very true.
So,
Very true.
and the way I kind of, and the reason why I do it that way is because it gives the mind, the process, what we've learned in that first week and the following weeks. It gives you a week to kind of see things. And I kind of, depending on the situation, I will give them homework. Like, when you're during the week, and I like to use this for I am caring. Caring just doesn't mean that you're a caring person where you're showing love and empathy for others, right? But there's a caring in the sense of caring for yourself
Right.
and putting yourself first sometimes. And that is very difficult for a lot of people where they can't see themselves being able to take care of themselves first. They want to take care of others before they take care of themselves.
And
And
that, go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, I
Finish.
was just gonna say, because that's kind of where I had to learn that the hard way, right? So, and by the way, it's not like I woke up one day like, oh, I'm all these things, right? It does take time and it does take a process too. But I remember I was running ragged, and one of my friends had told me, "Hey, look, you look a mess. Like, what's going on?" I'm like, "Oh, my daughter, she has these surgeries. I have to work, and I got to take care of my wife, and it's just everything." And he's like, "Well, what are you doing for yourself?" I'm like,
Right.
"What do you mean? Like, I got to take care of them." He's like, "Well, you have to take care of yourself first, because if you fall ill and you're not taking care of yourself, what's going to happen? They're going to have to take care of you now. And now who's going to take care of them when you're down?" So I was like, oh, it was like a light that turned in my head. I'm like, oh my God, he's right. Like, I do have to take care of myself and sometimes be selfish in the time that I need to take care of myself. So, there's times I have to be like, hey, Verge, I can't tonight. I can't, or today she wants me. I'm like, I need an hour to meditate, figure out what we're doing for the program. Like, and she understands, but sometimes we have to just say, hey, I need time for myself. And that's
And
okay.
You know what's interesting? See, people have to separate the difference between selfish and self care. They're two different things. Selfish is whatever it is. Self care means that I'm taking time for me. And sometimes it might be a situation where it infringes on other people, but that's again, when you have just like what you said, you can run around for everyone else. It's just like the old adage with the airline stewardess. You got to put your mask on first before you help other people,
Yes.
and that's just a pure
Yeah, and I totally use
reality.
that in one of my class. Like in the class, I do talk about how when we were on the airplane, and when they talk about putting on the mask in the airplane, that they say put yours on first before you put it on your child or the person that needs help. Because if you pass out before, you know what I mean, like you have to take care of yourself first before you're able to help the other person.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. I mean, it's you know, I have to say this Zen Salto program, it's a great opportunity. And this is something you do at your YMCA because you're an
Oh no, this
administrator.
is I do separately from there. I do work there, but I do it separately from there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah. So
So,
I work there, but I do it separately from there. I because as you mentioned earlier, sometimes you want to kind of you're working for others, but you want to be able to do your own thing. So I've been able to do this more on my own. I do some of the stuff as far as like the mantra and that kind of stuff. I do use it there, but as far as the full program, I do it outside of that.
okay,
I'm actually able to provide the services at the location that you would like me to do it at. So if it's um, at a church, or if it's at a school, or if it's at a company, I'm able to provide those services there.
that see that is incredible because being mobile gives you the ability to help so many more people. And again, it also serves you as well because just like we talked about, it's 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 great to be a part of an organization, but it's also and it's an incredible way for you to learn how to stretch yourself when you are doing something of your own, some
Yeah,
type of passion that you developed. So, more power to you in
yeah.
that respect because
Yeah, and it really I feel that it stretches me in a sense of, it depends on the age level that I'm working with. If I'm working with preschoolers or school age students, high school students to adults, I have to be able to maneuver how I'm doing the class and how long the class is going to be for. So that really helps me kind of really navigate and kind of scale what it is that I'm doing. And it's been an amazing journey to do that.
well, it's again, it's such a needed thing because on all levels, like you said, on as small as the kindergarten preschool level, people need to children need to learn how to develop themselves mentally, physically, emotionally. You know, your program does that for them. And then, like you said, looking at the older children, more of the high school children, they are heavily influenced by things like social media, by things like television. And a program like Zen Salto allows them to focus more on self and
Yes.
allow them to understand that they are okay the way they are and that they have the ability to learn how to stretch farther. And
Yes.
then when you're dealing with um, working age people, say between the, you know, late 20s and early 50s and
Yes,
mid 50s. These people are so wrapped up in the day to day,
that's right.
between work, between families, and things of that nature. This now becomes that avenue of self care that allows them to say, you know what? I'm going to take an hour to myself
Yes,
once a week, and I'm going to do my Zen Salto, and I'm going to learn how to better manage myself during that time. And
yeah.
like I said, we talked about it earlier. Just the movement itself helps to increase those feel good
Well,
hormones.
it's
And
the action. It's taking the action, and
right.
that's really what helps. Yeah.
And then when you talk about your older population, they are now having the opportunity to again believe in themselves because of course we live in a world of ageism, and there are a lot of people that feel like one of the big things are I'm too old to do this, I'm too old
Yes.
to do that,
Mhm.
when the reality is your age does not matter. It just means that you may have to adjust the way you go about doing things.
Yes.
Sure, you can't, man, you can't do what 25-year-olds doing and you're 73,
Mhm.
but you have years of knowledge. And so now it's a different form of
Mhm.
application,
Exactly.
going in that respect. I mean, look, Jerry, um, I just wanted to say again, thank you for this incredible opportunity. Ladies and gentlemen, Jerry Carchi, developer of the Zen Salto program. Um, his information, you can just go directly to his website, which is listed right here. Also, Jerry, um, how else can people reach out to you?
So yeah, so on our website it has all the information as far as reaching out to me. You can reach out to me through my email, which is zensalto at gmail.com. That's a way you can reach out to me. It's all listed on there. And again, I'm available as far as doing anything as far as even corporations, churches, schools, to be able to make this program work for them.
Okay, excellent, excellent. I'm so glad that you have that. Your program is designed to be able to work across a swath of different environments. So again, Jerry Carchi, this was a great interview, and I really
Thank you so much for
appreciate
your time. Thank you for
that.
the opportunity to.
You know, I mean, Zen Salto needs to get out there, and it needs to be a way. And but I'm gonna end it by saying this: you have developed an incredible way to be able to use the challenges that you've gone through. You and Sydney, Virginia, your entire family, you've been able to use them and transform it into a form of fuel that has allowed you to be able to move forward, explore different aspects of yourself, and see how far you're willing to go. So it's a byproduct of the challenges that you've been through. And that's really what this show was about, making sure that people understand that you can go through things, but what's more important is how you respond and react to it.
That's right.
So again,
Thank
thank
you for
you
that.
very
Yeah,
much.
that is yes. Thank you so much for that. That's exactly what I try to do, and it's manifested this way, and I'm sure we can find others people's find their way to manifest what works for them to be able to strengthen themselves and move forward.
Like I said, Jerry Carchi, inventor and developer of the Zen Salto program. my hat's off to you
Thank
because
you very much.
you are doing some incredible things for not only yourself and your family, but for the community at large. So thank you again.
Thanks again, buddy.
So make sure you guys go to his website, sign up for his classes. Um, do you do anything like virtually?
As of right now, I don't do anything virtually. I am in the process of trying to put something together, just to
Okay.
make sure that they can hear the sounds correctly and be able to transition from the talk to the dance class, or I should
Okay.
say the movement.
So for right now, hey, touch base with him on his website so he can set up some time with you.
All right.
Thank you again. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for listening to another episode of the Grief Empowerment Theory. You do have an opportunity to transform the challenges you've been through and turn them into fuel. Thank you.